Phil, Harry, what do you prefer being called? Harry, Phil, doesn't really matter.
Doesn't really matter, mate. No, it's one of those things that I probably had for 20, 25 years of my life, probably a Phil bit, and then it's been Harry probably for the majority since. So, okay.
Welcome to the podcast. And Harry, we met a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago, maybe.
2.5 years ago, yeah, at the Rhino Classic.
Yeah, Rhino Classic. I came back from Oz for that, and you were sat next to me, learning how to judge. So, tell us, introduce yourself. Tell us what you have been up to in this pandemic, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty stuff of why you became a PT, why you decided mass career change, and then getting into judging, and we'll finish off with the most controversial part, the federations.
Ooh. I forgot we've mentioned that one. Yeah. Okay. Since the virus, I suppose. I've still been PTing, but on a different basis. I've gone online, and I've also now gone on an online coaching basis as well, which I was planning to do. So this just probably moved the goalposts a little bit sooner. Meant I could spend time doing it because I think when you're busy, it's very difficult to take that time out, especially as a PT. I've been working in a commercial gym, and you're dealing with lots and lots of people. So I think that for me, it's been probably a good time, lockdown. So I've been doing a lot of Zoom online classes. I've been doing a hell of a lot more sort of interaction. And in the last 3 weeks since I started my sort of official online coaching business, what I've been doing is contacting clients on a daily basis. And do you know what? I just find that just so more satisfying, because I think that people need that. They need that boost, that kick.
Harry, have you found since, like, obviously the virus has happened and you've gone online, obviously I did this 2-3 years ago now. I went online massively, purely because I was the other side of the world. My online just picked up like that and put a lot of time and effort into it. But did you find that you get more satisfaction out of doing online than you do face-to-face?
I think it's a different type of satisfaction. I think for me, what's been really good is that I've been training, just give you an example, a couple of female clients, and they train with me once a week. Been fantastic, really lovely people. They train hard when they're with me. I know that when they're not with me, they find it more difficult to train, and they sort of question themselves or question their style or their form. And I could never find out why that they weren't probably just achieving the results. And I just put it down to the fact that they weren't training hard enough. Since this lockdown and since going online, I've been able to analyse and look at their nutrition a lot more than I did before. Before, I used to sort of, give them an example of what they should eat, give them an idea of, macros and calories, more so just calories, and just say, look, there you go, hit your protein levels, etc., and you'll be fine. Are you doing that? Yeah, and I probably wouldn't even look at what they're entering on MyFitnessPal, because they probably weren't doing it, and I didn't have the time to sort of keep chasing it. Now, being at home and being able to sit down and, even if it's still once a week, analysing, their nutrition and taking the time, I've been able to see and say to them, right, make sure you log it, make sure that I can see it, let's talk about it. And for a couple of those clients, I've really been able to understand why they've not got the results in the past 18 months of me PTing them. And I feel that that's probably for me a lot more positive in what I'm doing, a lot more motivational from my aspect, because I can see, well, you're not going to get the results if you're only eating, 40 grams of protein, on a daily basis. You're not getting the levels that you should be, so you're not going to, get the growth. So forget about the exercising if you're not eating, okay in the first place, and the calories that they were having were a lot different than what we were thinking. In fact, I've always thought, most people overeat. I'm actually finding that there's actually a lot of females out there that are actually undereating massively.
What's the mindset of, like, they either probably the biggest one is they never have enough protein going in their system, period. Then
100%.
if they do think they're eating enough protein, their meals aren't enough anyway, because 9 times out of 10 they'll be snacking, and it will be like, oh, this breakfast, I'll just have a shake. So like 30 grams of protein, say there, and that's going to be their maximum amount of protein all day. If you're lucky, you'll probably add maybe 5-10 grams more per the rest of the day, purely because they'll be at lunch. Oh no, I'm so busy. I'll just have a little snack, whatever. I don't know, hummus and a couple of carrot sticks and some cucumber. Job done, and then dinner, and it's like, oh well, yeah, I'll have like 10 grams of protein, and I'll have a potato or a ruckload of pasta. There's no.
Or it's all salad, and even going back to one thing you said about having a shake. You know, there are some girls I don't think that understand supplements at all, and a lot of them are going down this sort of vegan route as well. And you know, nothing wrong in that, but you know, you're straight away reducing probably the amount of protein in your diet by having a vegan diet. Besides probably other things, maybe fats as well. You know, again, there's a perception out there. You eat fat, you get fat, and so there's a whole multitude of different issues. And it's a case of, you know, just it is re-educating, and I'm sure there'll be a conversation in a minute about social media. And you think with social media that people would understand a lot more, but they don't. I think it's just there's just so much crap out there, and so many people sort of think they know, and they. You know, I've got a mate of mine, and you know, he's following, well, not following, but he's got this American guy who's saying, "Follow me and do this," and I've got this fantastic, you know, supplement, and it's got, you know, eight things in it, and probably what he's talking about is actually quite credible information, but they suddenly think there's this wonder drug, and there just isn't. It's just all about, you know, the basics and consistency.
I've had you see other people on podcasts and stuff like that, but I've been lucky enough, obviously, since we met. I lost my dad and stuff, so I had the opportunity to take an easier step in life through that. That's given me that opportunity, and I've taken a massive step back from the fitness industry, and I'm not hung up in there. Not hung up in the bodybuilding world. Yes, I've still got loads of friends around the world. I've still got my group on Facebook. I've got my podcast going back. But the one thing it comes back to is, like you just said, is education. Now, the problem is I was asking this to a fellow friend of mine, competitor as well, very, very good competitor. Her boyfriend's a very, very good competitor. We came up with this realization of this is there someone who is, or a authority who is going to mandatorily look into the education which is going out on social media, which is going out into the world on the internet? Because I'm not, you know, I could name drop a dozen coaches, and you could say they're different from this spectrum. That's just on the 10 of them or 12 of them.
Yeah.
And these guys have got, like, if you combine their years of knowledge and who they've prepped and stuff like that, it just, the names would be ongoing. You know, you've got, okay, we'll drop one name in there, okay, or two. You've got Chris Aceto, who has, you know, prepped Ronnie Coleman, prepped Jay Cutler in the early days. Then you have Neil Hill, who is still prepping Flex Lewis, who's 7-time 212 champion. These guys have got years and years and years and years of knowledge, but people still take a bit of their stuff, twist it, turn it upside down, whatever. But at the end of the day, there should be a regulator out there who comes along and says, right, unless you have this license or you have acquired this amount of experience and qualifications on this subject, you should not be doing it. It should not be allowed out. You shouldn't be allowed to print a word. I got trolled in Australia by a bunch of people out there who disagreed on my ways of training people and prepping people, and tried to belittle my qualifications, etc., etc. But it turned out one of their people who do talks for them, are an ambassador for them, was a guy who prepped a girl who I dated for a while, who put her on 870 calories for the whole of her prep, near enough. So, you know what I mean?
Well, I've come across exactly the same. I could even probably say that I know of one particular top coach, supposedly, obviously because he's well known and coaches a lot. This is in the bodybuilding industry as well, and I know for a fact that one girl he coached. Don't get me wrong, when she went to competition, she did look lean. But the amount of calories that she was on, and the last couple of weeks of prep, she was, I saw her in the gym. She was like, crying, because she was going through so much pain. She probably wasn't eating adequately. You think, is that really what you need to do to get to where? Okay, maybe, she wanted to get this pro status, but you think to yourself, that's not that to me. And then when I found out afterwards, the amount of calories that she was on, I was thinking, no wonder she was in so much sort of pain and agony. And that shouldn't be right.
You're right. It's different for us as well as guys. For guys, i.e., yes, our hormone imbalance doesn't affect us as highly as women. I don't reckon I reckon I've probably prepped 10 women in total who have never had an issue with any hormonal issue afterwards. And they're just rare as rocking horse teeth. And like, I've always done it is I would never ever take anyone below like 1250 ever. Don't care how hard you've got to work. Never take you that. I've seen loads of people below it. So yeah, that's my opinion of that part of the industry. So 100%. I decided you were going to become a PT, and what's made you go towards? Well, what made you change your career for a start, and what avenue are you going towards more of, like prepping people, or you wanting to integrate I know you're a WABA judge, so, are you looking to go just purely bodybuilding side of things, or is it a whole that you want to?
No, actually, if I take a stage back, I've probably had a couple of businesses in the past, not fitness related. Financial advisor for 15 years, sold that business. Then I carried on from a commercial premises, letting and estate agency. So did that okay, but I just found that again, that was a very much a selling type of role, one of those positions where there's a bit of stress with it as well, and also I think it was a business that for me, it's very difficult to do a lot of these things on your own. I think that there is a change. I mean, going back to what you just said about licensing, I think there are changes afoot in certain industries. I've seen it in financial advising, lettings, estate agents. That's definitely going to go down that route, and it should do. But it all takes time. Why? I don't know. But anyway. So for me, it was an opportunity that came about just by chance. I decided after a few years of paying for my personal training course that I'd actually get around to doing it. And I was talking to somebody about a previous PT who had left the industry, and they hadn't replaced him. And next thing you know, I was basically filling the role. It meant that I was offloading my other businesses. So I've done all that, and I just thought, right, I'd give it a stab. I've always been into sport. I've played cricket, football; those are my two main ones. But I played all sports at a reasonable level, sort of county level. Never took it that stage further for various reasons. So for me, it was just a passion, something that I probably thought I should have done when I left school, college. So I thought I'd give it a go and just learn from a commercial gym. a little bit about how it operates, and so that's sort of interesting now, and that's the only experience I have. But obviously, I've worked out in what I call bodybuilding type gyms and independent ones, etc. So, but for me now, I think that bodybuilding is sort of potentially a passion, but I find it probably very I don't know. It's a type of, it's a very exclusive type of person that probably goes down that route. And as much as I enjoy it, I also despise it. I think for very, very, very many reasons. And I think for me is it's a way that for some people can show off, something. It's a beautiful sport. Don't get me wrong. But on the other avenue, it could be the exact opposite. Going down the route what we've just been talking about, people and being made to prep on very low, very low calories, and in ways that you think, hang on, that is that. Should you be able to do that to another human being? I do feel that's probably why I've obviously have lost the passion for it, but I just feel it's probably not for me long term. I think unless it was, like you said, purely a licensed sport, something which, I think, the match, something we said about earlier with the federations. If the federations probably took the sport more seriously and maybe there was a governing body that oversaw a lot more, then I think a lot of these other things would be filtered, and we'd probably create licenses for prep coaches, personal trainers. Let's be honest about it. Anybody can go and get a personal trainer qualification. It's not that difficult. And no disrespect to even the guys that I know that run these companies. The one that I went through. They're great people. Love them, and their ethics, their ethos, perfect. But it's just too easy. For them, it is money making, and sadly, I just feel that it's just lost its way. And I think for me, bodybuilder will always be something I like and enjoy, and I'll still be involved possibly, but it would be for me the long-term ambition. I think for me, through my own personal experiences so far, it's about making people fitter, happier, healthier, and maybe the sport realm. I've got a qualification now within golf, which is my other hobby now. And I'm probably going to pursue that a little bit more. So again, that won't be a niche at the moment. It takes a while to get that established, but I did that towards the end of last year, and that's interesting, very interesting. And people are very surprised when you start talking to them about how nutrition can actually affect their golf and how they play. That's besides obviously making them fitter and making them better golfers. So that for me is probably a little bit more of my ambitions and not the bodybuilding route. But for the meantime, I'll still have an interest in it and see where that goes. But the judging side of it was really just another part and parcel of finding out a little bit more. And again, I don't think I'll be going down that route either.
No, the golf route, mate. Obviously, I had some clients who were golfers. A few years back, very, very, very good way if you can get yourself in with a good golf course and start doing pliability work with them, and obviously nutritional work, mate. Revenue. That corner of the world is. But yeah, no, it's a shame about the whole bodybuilding world. I think it's become a bit of a sour world at times. I think the elite have become more elite. And they're sky high. So your Olympians, your top IFBB boys and girls, that middle part there isn't anymore, and the lower part, which are like the Rhino Classics and stuff like that. The decent ones are very few and far between now. I think it's now because it's become very social media driven. It's who you know at those contests, and that's that. That's my opinion. People can come and argue with me on this one if they listen to my podcast. I've been to plenty of shows. I've judged plenty of shows. I've worked internationally. I've seen it. It's same in Australia. It's rifled. It's rifled through there. I had a client 2 years ago at a local show. It was because obviously in Australia it's states instead of counties.
Yep.
So we were in Queensland state, and it was a state show. Girl who was about to walk on stage with my client was literally about to pass out. No water, no nothing whatsoever. And if my client hadn't stopped her and given her a couple of sips of water, she'd have collapsed on stage. And what happened? Walked on stage, lost to this woman, and this woman walked off stage saying, "It's a pleasure walking on stage with you and competing against you, but I have to be honest, I took some stuff to take me across the line." This was a natural federated show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The competitor, just like I lost my rag, but my client asked me, and I fully respected her for it, said, leave it. And who went down to the state finals, and then who went on to the nationals, and it was all paid by the lady who was organising that show.
Sure.
So it happens at every level across the world. I think it's a tragedy. I think it's not fair. But that's bodybuilding, I suppose.
It is. It's a shame because, yeah, just like you, I've been to quite a few shows now here in the UK, and I'd like to think probably most of the shows that I've been to, we mentioned one earlier in Waba. I think that's probably where my first love of bodybuilding started, because certainly the guys that I knew on the judging panels all seemed to be sort of fairly what I call independent, and I didn't see any bias that I knew of. Not to say that probably that still may not have happened. Somebody knows somebody, or they train with them at a gym and that sort of thing. But I didn't see that to begin with, for sure. And to be honest, I don't think I ever saw that. Well, maybe on an international basis, maybe I saw things differently. I remember at Body Power there was one particular event that happened, but there you go. That's just probably again judges with different opinions, and maybe on an international basis they've got different rules, but a different mentality. And I think that's probably the case from European countries to the UK, etc. I think there was a difference on how. Maybe certainly when we're talking about bikini, I mean that's definitely the case. But I think that some of the shows that I've been to, the one that we talked about where we met, I remember seeing the different things on that day, and then it takes the sport, because if it's happening on a smaller basis, what's happening on the bigger basis, and if we talk specific shows. The PCA, I've been to quite a few of those. They always seem to be pretty good, independent. But again, that's again from the outside. I've been to Two Bros, and don't get me started on there. That's I've got no frigging time for them at all. God dear me, and they treat them like cattle. Oh, honestly, if I was a competitor, I'm afraid, unless you are in one of those top three or whatever, top five, the rest of you, it's like, oh, thanks for staying on for an extra 2 hours. Bye-bye. For me, you have, 3 months of just prep, let alone all the training and the years that go into all that. And you go to, you pay a lot of money and you get on this big stage, and then suddenly you're told, thanks very much and bye-bye, in the way they do. And it's like, whoa. So that's the degrading bit as well. It's not just about the judging. That's another thing. You get top coaches presenting prizes, and you think, hang on, why are they presenting prizes? Because probably half of the people that are actually turning up today are their clients. It's like you think, I don't know. It just doesn't sit well with me as an independent person, let alone if I was actually the competitor. I mean, but it goes on. And that's why I don't love the sport as I could, because there's not enough independency involved in each of these federations. So going back to the initial start of our conversation about talking about federations, I think we've got there earlier than we intended to. But and for me, I just think if you're going to be in this sport, you just got to go out there and enjoy it. And if you pick the right federation and they like you, fantastic, run with it. Don't beat yourself up about it if you go to a particular one and they don't like you. I just think, if you're going to do it for your enjoyment, and don't think necessarily that if you don't get selected to be in the top 5, 6, that it's necessary. If you feel that you look good, fine, but be self-critical. I think there's a lot of people that still think they look good and they think they should be in that, top 3 or something. Lots of their friends will always say, "Oh, you look fantastic," all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Well, I think if you've got a good set of judges, let them do the critiquing. But I think also, like I said to you, if your face doesn't fit or you're at the wrong, gym, etc., well, you just have to accept the fact that is currently the sport.
Obviously, you had some experience with this, so it happens worldwide, though, Harry. I can tell you stories. ICN Australia, I know Jason Woodworth up in Queensland, amazing guy, but the feedback I have been told many, many times is they literally chuck you on like cattle class. It's like boom, 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 boom. Now, I'm not saying that their federation's rubbish. If they want to run their federation like that, that's amazing. I know for a fact Jason Woodworth puts on an amazing show. Now, you could look at it from two sides of this is, wait a second, it's an amazing show and people want to compete at it. But draw a line on how many people are competing.
100%.
How many people, I believe, I'm not the exact figures, but we're talking over 250 to 300 people competed at one show 2 years ago or a year ago in Queensland. Now, to me, there was apparently, I don't know, again, I'm not stating facts of numbers. I don't want to kick off an argument with Jason Woodworth and ICN Australia about this, but there was 30 to 40 women in the bikini class alone.
Yeah.
Now, how can you honestly fairly judge doesn't matter how many judges you've got, how can you actually, as a judge, like we did the Rhino together, there was 20 people on that stage, 20 women on that stage, or 22 or something. That was hard. Imagine doubling that as even harder. I just don't agree with, obviously, yes, everyone's got to make some money. I understand that. And pay for this exclusivity of the shows, the lights, everything else. I get that. But make it fair. Come on.
But I think
40 people per class.
Yeah. PCA British finals last year, exactly the same. I think bikini short, there was 27, and you think 27 short, that's besides then obviously all the other categories. So what is there in bikini women? There's probably about, I don't know, 5, 6, from tall to short to medium to whatever, and then obviously the age ones, etc. My way of thinking is, and don't get me wrong, PCA put on a fantastic show in Exeter, Southwest. That was really good. I'd say it's probably one of the best local shows I've ever been to. And it was perfectly run. The right amount of people seemed to be, I think, in most of their classes. But when they got to the finals, it was as if they wanted to, because it was over, I presume, 2 days? I think it was, yeah. I think that, for me, great venue up in Hull, fantastic building, etc. But there's too many competitors. It doesn't become then exclusive. It should be that for me, you want the best. You want the top people in your industry, the ones that have come through all those regionals, to be there. It's not about numbers. If you want just numbers and therefore to pay for the venue, we'll have a smaller venue. And etc. Have it so that it's exclusive, and also a lot of those people that have probably been to these regionals would also come and watch the final, because I find with bodybuilding, it's not a sport that unless you're involved in the sport, you're necessarily going to go and watch. And that's the downside I think that I've seen with bodybuilding. I've been to some shows and you look around and you think, where is everybody? There isn't an audience. It's not really a spectator sport, and that's where I feel that bodybuilding is missing out, really.
It isn't. But over the years, I get, again, everything's a business. I understand that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not here to criticize people to death of, oh yeah, you can't make money, but there is making money and having a successful, what I would call a successful thing is bums on seats, happy athletes, proper judging, great outcome. There you are, to having minimum amount of competitors, dodgy judging, and lack of bums on seats with no atmosphere. Personally, I'd rather have, oh yeah, make £2 a head per person in their seat, rather than 20 quid per person and there's only like 30 people in there, instead of a packed out audience like there was at the Rhino Classic 2 years ago. It was rammed.
Yeah, yeah. But I also like to think that a lot of these shows that I've been to, if they're not getting bums on seats, how can you get, more people in the audience, get more of an atmosphere, make it just not, just for the competitors and the few of their mates. And the best ones that I've been to where they sort of like captured that a bit more, and I still don't think they've done it as well as they could have done, is, bring in these outside companies, the supplement companies, bring in, the clothing companies, because if you have like a mini expo, to me, that can attract people that want to come and at least say buy some goods or look, and the advertising that can go with it. I still don't see that any of the big players are doing that in the way that they could do. Even Two Bros maybe, but then they're probably making enough money anyway, so they don't need to do it. So because they must be making no respect a shitload for what they charge. But I think that all these, I've been to a couple. There was one in North Devon, Bideford. I think they used to call it the North Devon Classic. It's done it the last couple of years. But they used to put on a mini expo because they ran their own supplement business as well. And that was really good, and they used to have other things going on in the background. So it wasn't just bodybuilding, and they had some other.
Was the UK Up show, which was in Milton Keynes, where Labby used to do the can't remember which show it was. We used to do a show there. It's at a big school, and UK Up had loads of stalls there, clothing lines, all of that lot. But the show was awful. They'd do one category. That's it. Thanks very much. Off you go. Don't end it there. Come back 20 minutes later after you've just seen 3 more rounds, and you're like, what? Hey, oh, what? I've already seen these guys 20 minutes ago. Oh, yeah, there's the results. Why not have the results straight away? And then category. And it ended up, I know someone who was in there, and she didn't come even top 5. And because of the numbers for the finals, she got an invite.
Oh, really?
Like the finals 3 weeks later, and I'm like, we didn't even come top 3.
Yeah,
I'm only going off what.
No, it's a watered down industry, and I think the only categories that I see that obviously are increasing, are bikini and men's physique, and there are some people that don't like that. I know for a fact one particular guy who runs a particular federation. He's definitely old school, and we've had many conversation about this, and and online, so it's out there, and I respect that. I do respect that, but it's not going to be a federation that'll carry on I don't think it'll be a successful federation, because I think that when he probably leaves the federation, because he's had enough, I'm sure it will just die. Because unless the bodybuilding as a sport isn't increasing, not in the way that people would like, not the traditional way, and the only way it's been successful at the moment is the guys and the girls in the bikinis, and you think to yourself, I've got nothing wrong with guys coming on in the shorts. I think that's the step into bodybuilding. That's what you want to try and get them to do. Girls the same. If you can get girls into bodybuilding at what we call bikini, which is sort of a halfway house, those that want to might take it into the other classifications. So I see it as a stepping stone, and WABA, in fairness, we talk about them. I like the idea that they used to have all the different classifications, and you knew, certainly as a judge, I mean, I certainly knew the classifications because, you know, they were very good at making sure that there was a manual put in place.
IFBB in Australia have only just brought in the wellness class for women.
Yeah.
WABA brought in wellness class 3 years ago, I think it was for women. And I think that is, you know, a sign of the times. You know, you're not putting pressure on someone to have to be skinny, lean, and bikini type, and who has got the muscle mass and being able to get shredded to go up to figure or physique. So, yeah, I think that's a thing. Going back to this gentleman that you've had these many topics of conversation, I wouldn't happen to know him by any chance, would I?
No, this was another one. This was this one was the NPA. What's Michael's surname? I think on top of my head. He's the guy that runs them, and he's an absolutely lovely guy. I've got a lot of time for him. Puts a lot of him and his wife put a lot of effort into the shows, and I've been involved with them because I've got a supplement company that I run as well. I've been doing that for about 4 or 5 years. And that's probably another reason I went down into the PT route. But we've supported them in Taunton, where I live, Somerset, in their Southwest regional event, I think 2 years or 3 years. And the first year was fantastic. Sadly, the last couple of years have been a bit quieter. But his stance is tradition, you know, as far as he's concerned, bodybuilding is, you know, to him, bodybuilding, and, you know, girls in bikini girls and men's physique, you know, in their long shorts, just, you know, doesn't come into his arena. And I've had this conversation with him online and face to face, and I've tried to say to him, look, you want more and more people to come, you want more competitors, and you want more people to come and watch them, which is, you know, their friends and their mates and the family. It's the only way for your federation to survive. You know, don't get me wrong. He'll always probably have that nucleus of traditional bodybuilders, you know. But if you want the federation to continue and to grow, the only way is you've got to allow that new blood in. I
think the federation has to change with the times, and I think personally, the old style. I love old bodybuilding's great. Don't get me wrong, but the problem is I think this is with society, and unfortunately, I think society now. If you were to go back, and Dorian Yates said this, okay, and I'm gonna more or less quote it word for word, but it's not probably going to be. Is people don't take their time. They want their results now.
Yeah. Or yesterday.
Pete Priest, exactly the same, you know, has said exactly the same. You know, people want results now. Now, unfortunately, to be on stage in a proper bodybuilding category doesn't take 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It takes 5, 10 plus years.
Yeah.
And that's 5, 10 plus consistent years, not 5 minutes of consistency.
Yeah.
And I think people don't understand because all they're seeing is finished articles.
Yeah.
Instagram famous articles, as I call it.
Mm-hmm.
The Instagram famous, look at me, I'm done. Yeah, I'm going to be like that in 5 minutes. No, it's not. Now, a lot of these guys who are doing even physique classes are now going down the route of, I'm going to take this, I'm going to take that, and, oh, my God, yes, it's going to get me results. No, it's not going to get you the results. Josh Rogan did an interview with Ronnie Coleman recently.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
All right. You saw the section on Ronnie Coleman openly admitting what he took. Right? Okay. You'd be a bit naive if you think he didn't take anything. But the amount of stuff he's probably taken is like this to the amount you go to your local bodybuilding gym, people are taking like this.
Yeah.
The list, for instance, Big Ramy's list was off the scale. It was ridiculous, apparently. These are all legends, okay?
I can tell you that there is a current. I won't say his position in the bodybuilding Olympia show, but all I say, he is one of the top bodybuilders. Who, lovely guy, and he has told me what he takes or what his coach gives him. Yeah, when he's prepping. Yeah, so he'll step on stage, and he is one of the main competitors for being number one. Yeah, and all I say is that he has a concoction of shit. I mean, it ain't just one or two things. We're talking about a lot, because I've even talked to him about how he diets, and we even talked about clenbuterol. That was another story, quite interesting. But the guys that I know, a bit like you just said there, the Ronnie Coleman's, etc., their history is, from what they're saying, is that genetically he was probably quite gifted.
Yes.
So maybe, so already in a sport before bodybuilding, he was already quite a big guy. But all the guys that I know, and again, I'm not an expert, I haven't coached it, the big guys, a few of the girls on the bikini side of it. But when you start talking about the amount of, roids, etc., that they're taking, a lot of them, they say it's a small amount. That's all you need. But what was interesting about Ronnie Coleman was that I liked was the fact that he was medically given, whenever he was given, by a doctor, by somebody who, was classified as being, somebody who was practicing, somebody who knew exactly what he was giving him, was probably legit, and knew the quantities, knew that it was, I wouldn't say it was safe, because I mean, what steroid is safe? But at least then he knew that it was, the proper stuff. And I just think in this modern world, if we're living in a society now that we don't believe that a lot of these guys are taking something, well, that's one thing. But they're actually taking something which technically is illegal, and it's all done underhand. I just wonder why that, again, that we're not finding that all these guys are actually taking something which is from a legitimate source.
Okay, there isn't going to be, in this country, it's not legit, period. A doctor, I've never heard, I've had top surgeons. I was lucky enough, my grandfather was a doctor, GP. And if I went to him and said to him he's been dead 10 plus years, but say for instance, I was in a different age group and I was a lot older than I am now. And so I was younger when he was about, I'd said to him, Grandpa, can you please get me some Tesamphe, this, and this, and this. It just slapped me from here to Timbuktu and back. That's what he was like. And he took an oath. So I can imagine, I can't see it ever becoming a legalized thing in this country. Yes, I can understand it in the States. Yes, I can understand it in different countries. I know a guy quite a high level, he's actually got his pro license in Australia. He got his stuff from a doctor. So I can understand it. But like I'm trying to say is people see these results uber quickly, uber fast, because they don't explain. They don't see Jay Cutler at age 16 going to the gym, do, taking nothing until X, and then taking whatever, do until present day. I'm sure everyone out there is listening to this podcast, watching this video, remembers MTV Cribs, yes? Who got busted in his fridge door?
Yeah.
Jay Cutler. So in the instance of that I think people are now just thinking, right, I've got to take X, where they don't actually know what the likes of Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, Dorian Yates, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I could list a whole list of names. Phil Heath, Brendan Curry's current one. Sean Roden was another one. Dexter Jackson, another one. Yes, these are genetic freaks, as I call them. They are genetically, they have that 1% better genetics than most people. So, yes, it's enhanced. Yes, it is. But the 99% of Joe Public out there, like myself, like you, no offense, I'm sure if you were to wanting to take something, yes, you'd enhance your body a little bit, but it's not going to be a Mr. Olympian, but you're putting your life at risk. You know, how many times, okay, I'll be honest and open. I don't care what people say. I've taken stuff. But I got my bloods done twice a year, every year when I'm taking stuff. And I'm even actually this Thursday going to London for some tests to do with that. Now, i.e., I haven't touched anything for over probably 12 months, 18 months. And so I'm going the right way around it. But 90% of people who do it don't do that.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. It's not the fact that I want to step on stage, I want to be Instagram famous, I want to be this. You're actually playing with your own life.
Yeah, 100%. And also your organs, you know, people don't realise of how enlarged the organs will be by taking this stuff. And, you know, I've spoken to a cardiologist and, you know, who actually was trained by a lady who used to take gear of some description. I don't know what she was on, but and he was just telling me, you know, in his experiences, every time that he actually, you know, works on somebody who's coming from a bodybuilding background, quite often, you know, their heart will be enlarged, and you know, it puts more and more pressure on the body. And you know, you think to yourself that, you know, we've had a few instances recently of well-known figures that have, you know, that basically died for whatever reasons. Some on the mental side, maybe not the physical side as well. And you do feel that actually, again, go back to the licensing and the sport, I think it does need to clean its act up a little bit. I do feel that there must be a way of ensuring that even if, you know, these things are, you know, illegal, that if you're going to be licensed, that, you know, irrespective whether perhaps people are natural or non-natural, that they do have more checks done. You know, I do feel that you know, if certainly, you know, I'm recommending to anybody to compete. If they do it for a long period of time, then, you know, even if they're natural, what's wrong with having your blood checked occasionally, just to ensure that things are okay?
Anyone whoever prepped, natural or not, they're not working with me unless they've had a blood test before we even start. I just think you're silly. Like going back to clenbuterol, I told this story to Sam, my friend who's on one of my other podcasts, is I was taking over the years on and off, struggled my weight years and years ago, and, you know, was going to prep for a show, 6 years ago, 7 years, probably about 8 years ago now, actually, maybe even 10. And there was a mispackaging, and I was taking 40 milligrams instead of 20 milligrams per tablet. So one, I took 2 of them. It was 80 milligrams. Day 2, 80 milligrams. I was doing a cycle. So day 3, I took 120 milligrams. I had a resting heart rate. Listen to this one. You'll be shocked, like she was, of 178 beats. Resting. Sat there in the ambulance. Paramedic was like absolutely cacking herself. You could feel my heart smashing against my chest cavity. It was that bad. I was projectile vomiting. It was that bad. I had 2 hospital trips in the one day, and then I ended up staying in there getting my ass whooped by a Chinese lady who didn't even know what it was.
Lovely.
Oh, no disrespect to being Chinese, but yeah, this 4'8" woman, what is it? Wait a second. You're a doctor. How come I know more about it than you do? You know what I mean? So, yes, I was very, 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 very lucky. I don't know the actual statistics totally, but a lot of people who do actually do a lot of sport very, very young, who, you know, might have weight issues throughout their life, will end up with a slightly enlarged heart just through that alone. And yes, I was very, very lucky. There is a slight, very small increase on my left side of my heart. from this, probably from the cleanse more than anything else. But people aren't aware, and I think this boils down to education again, boils down to regulations again. And, I think these topics are cropping up more and more and more, as well as the mental health side of all of this. There's not just the bad side from, oh, well, we're going to label it because you've taken steroids, la, 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 la. Also, we could say this pandemic's caused mental health issues by 99% of the people. What main reason do you like to exercise for? And there is different forms of exercise, I get, but going to the gym, being social in your gym, having the music pumping some iron, have you missed that? Probably yes, massively. I could name 99% of people I know from the gym side of the world have missed that, and it's caused. I've had demons about it. So,
and have you also ever thought? It's crossed my mind, and I did actually pose this question to a lad who's a bodybuilder, and I know he trains with another guy who has got exactly the same traits as him. How many guys that do bodybuilding, let's forget girls at the moment, but certainly guys who also have issues, mental health issues. Certainly, I dismiss the girls for a minute because that's something else at the moment, but I'll come back to that. But for men, how many of them actually train, take a lot of gear as well, yeah, but have already started off with mental health issues, or those mental health issues have been exposed. They may be there, in whatever form or shape, and these steroids, etc., have basically exasperated. That's not the word, but anyway, they've made them worse. They've gone down this sort of hole of whether they were talking about here testosterone levels anyway in another way, shape or form, but the hormones are all over the place. I even know of some guys that before they competed at a show a couple of years ago, they said there were like three of them talking to each other in the car park, and they were all like crying like children. And I thought, it's strange. And I was chatting to the owner, etc., and said, you've got to do something. If you've got an issue where guys are actually trying to perform on stage, trying to compete in the bodybuilding world, even if it is on an amateur basis, and it's just going to be something that they love and they enjoy, and a couple of them were novices, and a couple of them had done this before a few times. You've got to have some support in place for these people, and I don't feel, again, going back to the whole licensing thing. And sadly, even with the Luke Sandow issue recently, which was so sad because I met him personally last year. He seemed a great guy, good fun, and I was giving him these big donuts, and he was eating them, and I was lucky enough to work with one of the wholesalers who actually were to do with Redcon, etc. And so I had sort of like a little bit more, I suppose, first-hand experience with these guys. But obviously, like everybody in life, there's an act, there's a persona that they give, whether it's on podcasts or whether it's on in the gym or at these events. But actually, deep down, they've got these bad issues which just don't seem to be talked about. They get talked about after the event, like when Luke passed away, and it's sad, and there's his close friends come out and say, yeah, we knew, and this, that, and the other. But you think, why isn't there some extra support in place, in the industry? I'm talking about, and I know that it's still not going to stop some people. It never will do. But there's got to be something in place that people can turn to. So it's not just a case of, go to your gym and, maybe talk to your buddy, because a lot of us guys probably wouldn't or don't. And probably we're a bit different than some of the females out there. But I do feel that in the supplement companies, federations of all these events, You know, I've not heard anybody say, right, we're going to put a support package in place. We're going to put a little group together, yeah, so that, you know, we can try and stop, you know, you're not going to stop all the events that will ever happen in this world, but you might just stop one person that might do the same as Luke did.
Without like, we're not here before anyone thinks this is, it's like we're blaming purely steroids on all of this. Yes, steroids will enhance these emotional feelings. Get that, 100%, right? But it's not, oh, the whole thing is down to steroids. Before anyone jumps on the bandwagon, put it in the comments, and, you know,
100%.
I get hunted down for life. But going back to Luke, and Luke was an amazing guy. I followed him. I know people who know him very, very personally. A friend of mine through social media was a very good friend with him. Met him as a person, got on very, very well. Was speaking to him prior, a couple of days before the tragedy that happened. You know, I know someone very, very close to him. And yes, something will be coming from that on this channel, on my podcast, in due time. Yes, obviously, without naming too many names, we know a guy called Ben Chow, who was his best mate. And, you know, all respects to Ben, his family now in America, and the respect to Luke and his family. But we're not trying to blame steroids for that whole situation. Yes, I believe individual circumstance. Yes, I believe it enhances. You know, I've had first-hand experience. I can remember taking trim, and I went from being calm, collected, Mr. Nice Guy, a week later to Mr. Mental Man at the same in a crack of a whip, basically. Shortest fuse on the world. So yes, I've had first hand of it. I'm not. That's not. You know. That's. You know. I have got a short personality just normally, but that went from that to that so quick. But yes, I believe. Yes, I think somebody, a federation, a supplement company, you know, should come out and educate the youngsters who are trying to get into this sport, who look up to their idols, you know, who look up to the Flex Lewises, the Jay Cutlers, the Ronnie Colemans, you know, and so on and so on. But do I ever think that's going to happen? Probably not. Probably not. Probably not. And it would be down to people like yourselves and I talking about the subjects, you know, to get a listening view on this subject. But again, at the end of the day, I just think I blame a lot on social media. I do blame a lot on social media. I do blame, it's like, we'll change the subject slightly to the pandemic. How much information has actually been 100% accurate, which has been slapped through all media, not just Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, to name some. I'm talking TV, internet, you name it, it's all there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I've heard one actual 100% truth out of all of it. So if we're not going to hear the truth on that, we're not going to hear the truth on bodybuilding and X, Y, and Z to do with bodybuilding and federations and supplement companies and athletes, are we? No.
I do wonder in life that we only learn so much more after the events, you know, and then we're very easy in society to criticize, you know, and I think, you know, I'd be the first one to say I hold my hands up, and I do that occasionally. You know, probably a little bit, you know, talking about federations, talking about the industry, talking about supplement companies, maybe, you know, personal training companies out there that are putting all these courses together. But I think, you know, you have to learn from the experiences and learn better practices. And I think that, as human beings, I think that, if you look back, probably going back to, there's been a lot of things going back over the last 100 years from, throughout sort of like the First World War and the Second World War, and obviously recently about, obviously racism in America, which has then had an effect over here. We're not going to be able to change everything all in one go to a satisfactory level. And then let's be honest about it, we all have our levels of what we deem to be satisfactory. But I think that all we can do, more importantly, is to have a higher moral stance. I believe, I'm not religious, never have been, never will be, but I do believe that you treat others as you want to be treated. And I just think that in life, I just wonder if people are that little bit more selfish than they used to be. I just think that people want to be a bit more me, or there's something missing. Social media is always put that, is always blamed for that.
I wouldn't say either of those 100% though, Phil. I would say it's the instant gratification everyone wants.
Maybe.
I wouldn't say it's not solely down on social media. It's social media is the funnel to all of this. I reckon I only know one of my mates, one mate, and I know even on all my took my social media, right? So it's combined nearly 10,000 people there that I don't know personally, but they follow me and I follow them. I don't know one of them who doesn't have social media. I know one mate who is not on anything. One mate. Uses his phone as a phone. That's it. One. So you think, if I only know one, but I can name 10,000, that's the biggest funnel ever. And that's 10,000 from me. And I'm minuscule in comparison to bigger celebrities out there, bigger people on Instagram. And I think it's the instant gratification that people want right now. So I want to be famous tomorrow. No, I don't. I really don't. I'm just doing this because, yes, I like to hear other people's opinions. Yes, I like doing this. I like talking to people and hearing their opinions on things. So that's why I do it. It's not a monetary thing. And it's not a gratification of I'm the best podcaster on the planet, because I'm not. Seth Rogen, Josh Rogan is. Sorry. Basically, to me, I think people want it now. It's now. And I think we're all guilty of it at times.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, we all are. I think it's very difficult not to get caught up in it all. Raising my two children, I thought to myself that, I wouldn't go down the same route as all of the parents. But you do. You do get caught up in, it's not just about what you think, it's also about what they think, unless you want your children to be looked at and treated completely differently, then you sort of go with the flow. So going back to, the technology or, Christmas presents, birthday presents. But I do think that society has to sort of realize that, you just can't, I think there's too much liberalism sometimes. I think we've got to the point where it's sort of anything goes. If you damn something because you think morally it's not right, it's deemed to be perhaps the opposite by a minority, but the minority seem to sort of get their way because nobody likes to be seen to be sort of like the judge and jury for these things. It's as if, and that's the same with you start talking about politics, etc. It certainly seems to me as if we're not up for good debates and arguments anymore. It's as if you can't really do that, and you think no, that's what we should still be doing. Why do we have a government and then we have an opposing government? And you think to yourself, the opposition are there to say, excuse me, but we're not happy. But to me, it's as if I don't think as human beings that perhaps that we have enough respect as well. But that comes from the layers above. I don't think that we respect, it's not just respecting our elders, but do we actually respect those people that are actually in power, those people that make decisions? Because some of the reasons you were just saying there about COVID-19, do we actually believe what's been coming out of the media, what's even been coming out of the mouths of our politicians? And that's nothing to do with necessarily the current government. We're also talking about those the civil servants, or those people that are being paid to work for us, work for our nation, or whether they're to do with the NHS or whatever bodies that they belong to. I mean, if you look at all the issues that we've been having since this COVID-19, I mean, there's the one at the moment about the tracking device. You think, who are we to believe? What I've read so far, you think, what a waste of money, and the corruption, and etc. But I think the thing is that makes me laugh is that it's sad, but human beings are, we're animals really, and I think that when it comes down to things like money and power and stuff like that, you're always going to find that there's always going to be somebody there that will overstep the mark, take things further, even in this situation that we're in, this COVID-19, and whether we believe that it has come from a natural source or not. I don't give a shit. At the end of the day, at the end of the day, that's for those to sort that out later down the line. But as far as I'm concerned, it's something which is real, something that's been in this world, and for me, selfish it might sound, but it's in this country. It sadly has, it's caused a lot of problems and killed sadly some people, and some people that have been quite healthy. But we've got to get back to reality soon. I'm hoping that it's a virus that has dwindled a bit. I say dwindled. I think they're saying that the strain of it has probably got less. Certainly, I think I read yesterday again, whether it's truth, but the Italian doctors are saying that they've certainly seen the strains of it getting less and less, as obviously it has spread. So. But like you said, it's a strange world. Why is it that we can't go onto Google and press a button, which is fantastic? I mean, the modern world is fantastic because it is very instantaneous. But why is it we can never get the truth instantly? It's always as if we're having to wait 5, 10, 15, 20 years later before obviously we then find out, oh yeah, that was right, and then a lot of it's brushed under the carpet.
Go back to how many times? Okay, so you've been a PT what, a year now?
Year and a half, yeah, since sort of January last year.
That year and a half, right? Okay. How many fads have you seen in that year and a half? How many fads? How many exercises?
How many fads? Endless.
Okay. List two, and I bet you, I've been in the industry 17 years this year. I reckon I've probably seen them 3 times in my 17 years, any of the two you're going to list.
Yeah. But I think the thing is with what I've seen, and even in this lockdown now, is the amount of people that are putting a spin on a spin. You mentioned something earlier about that, going back to the days of Arnie, Jay Cutler, etc. Training wise, I was watching something. Was it yesterday? And what on earth this girl was doing? She's got. Is this the same girl I'm thinking of? Yeah, she's a Chinese girl. Chinese, probably New Zealand. Can't think of her name now. It's like Chloe Talk or something. Anyway, and don't get me wrong, the presentation of the video is fantastic, and she does food as well, and the food looks very colourful, etc. So I can see why people will watch her and listen to her. And then the training technique, I was thinking she was doing some form of HIIT, to train or something, and she was doing like, I don't know, a squat jump or something like that. I think I don't know what it was that, but with a kick. I was thinking, why would you want to do that? It's as if like she had to do something different. And I think that's the thing, is every time that I'm looking at the internet, is people think there has to be something different. But why? Has the human body changed? Has it the human body's been the same, since, evolution. It's like, however, we do realize that there are certain things that are better for us than perhaps not. And there are certain styles for certain physiques, etc. It depends on your training, what you actually want to achieve. Maybe it's your sport or whatever. But fundamentally, there's sort of like, you could probably bring it down to sort of like 20 or 30 different exercises, weights or not or whatever. And you think to yourself, that's all you need to do. You don't need to have all of these other extra little bits. But that's the difference now, is that, I had one of my lady clients yesterday message me. She said, I get bored doing the same thing every week. Okay, you might get bored with it every week. But the thing is, do you get good at it every week? So at the end of the week, have you mastered, that style of training? Have you actually, increased the reps? Have you actually, sort of gained more strength?
One special word there, which would come to mind if she was my client: consistency.
100%. I use it all the time.
Consistency.
Yeah. I think people. Do you not think that people sort of, going back to something that we talked about there earlier, is that because there is so much social media, people see all these different ways and styles, etc., that they think that actually it's good to have, something different all the time. And then we go back, we use that word, say consistency. People go, but consistent is the same thing day in, day out. No, it's not. It's about if you train hard, you can get better at something. And what's wrong with you getting better at doing something if you work hard at it, and tweaking it a bit, not tweaking it to the point where you've got something completely different all the time.
We'll take a different sport altogether. Golf. Go golf, right? You hit a golf ball consistently with a different, with a driver, with a 5-iron, with a 4-iron, with a pitching wedge. You have to be good at every single one of those shots. So it's consistency.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Michael Schumacher going around the track, doing hundreds of laps, or Lewis Hamilton, doing hundreds of laps. Consistency. You don't get to become world champion at something if it's boring.
I think with a lot of these guys, certainly if you talk about other sports, they make their training enjoyable, even if you're probably into golf, say, for example, if you're doing sort of 6, 7, 8 hours of training, but you won't do the same thing all the time. I think that's the thing. It is about doing little bits and doing it so that, certainly in golf terms, if you're talking about sort of hitting balls, I mean, that's the one thing that they don't do. They don't just hit a ball and just go, that'll do. There is some form of co-collation in what they do, and there's an outcome as well. And I just wonder that probably when people train, that they're not thinking about that either. They just think, oh, that's all right, I've just done a few sit-ups, so I'm going to get a six-pack. So, no.
It's the inconsistency of doing that exercise. They think, okay, so when you lift up a dumbbell and you're doing a dumbbell curl, do you just go like this? Oh, yeah. I've done my set, done. You're not, are you? You're trying to contract, accentuate, accentuate, yeah? But your clients don't think of it like that. They think of it like, 1, 2, 3, 4, I've done it. Yeah, cool. I'm going to end up with 22-inch guns like Arnold Schwarzenegger. No, you're not.
Yeah.
And
I think that's where, the bit I enjoy about the PTing bit, the bit I've enjoyed face-to-face is actually showing people, how to do those exercises and get the techniques that I know that even the ones that I've learned, because you don't learn very much when you're doing your training, as in, your training courses. You learn a lot more afterwards. You learn a lot more. I've learned probably a lot more about training with weights anyway, certainly since looking at more the bodybuilding, which I did pre sort of becoming a personal trainer. I think I learned a lot more there, but I've also learned that by qualifying myself through what they call TPI, which is Titleist Performance Institute for golf. I've learned how you can do specific exercises that help to become golf fit, and for me, that's just taking things on a different level. But you can see why that you can specialize and why those sort of exercises fit that particular sport. But I think if people just want to be generally fit, there is only sort of like we were saying, a handful of exercise that people could do, or I think was it Joe Rogan? Or it might not have been him. It might have been there's another guy I follow, Dr. Chatterjee. He's sort of an Indian English doctor, and he does a lot of podcasts. And he's done a couple of books, etc. But he interviewed somebody recently, I think, who was in prison for as long as maybe 10 years. But what he did, and he was actually in solitary confinement for I think about a year. And they was asking him, how did you sort of get through all that? And he said he made sure that every day, even in this sort of 6 foot square room, that he had a consistent sort of plan of what he did when he got up. He did a set of exercises. He didn't really explain what exercises, but he had that same routine. Yeah. And I think, again, this goes back to, people and their expectations. They need consistency. They need routine. Go back to training. I think, as soon as people start, it's lovely to sometimes have a bit of a change. Even I understand that, change is as good as the rest, they say sometimes. But, you've got to become an expert in what you've been doing in the first place, or get to a good level before then you need to change or need to tweak things. But I think there is an expectancy, like you just said earlier, that people just want to do these things, get instant results. If they don't, they give up. But those that don't give up, they're very easy to sort of say, I want to do something different, because they're probably not seeing the improvements. And maybe some people only see small improvements and they're expecting larger improvements. So going back to what you said there, all I know is that people look at me, and I'm 53 now. Sort of quite proud to be 53, because maybe in my earlier days I probably didn't even think I'd get to 53. I suspect with lifestyle and whatever else. Yeah. But I look at guys and I go, look, I've managed a life of trying to be fit and healthy, but also burning the candle at both ends, as I call it, and I used to a bit. But I think now I suddenly realise you can't keep on doing that. You do have to try and look at things like sleep and look at your nutrition. Look at your alcohol intake. Maybe if I've gone another level, your drug intake. If you're on any form of medication or self-medication. And realise that as you get older, you can't keep doing the things that you used to be able to do. So the only way of, I suppose, of changing, you have to change. You have to make some differences in your lifestyle. And that's what I've done.
Cool. Well, I'm going to let you tell us where anyone can get hold of you. So go plug your PT online business, your face-to-face business, your supplement business, and
oh wow,
thank you very much for coming on today, mate. I'm sure we've got a load more topics we could have a conversation about on here. Definitely, I'd definitely like you to come back and do some more.
Well, I'd love to as well. It's been great having a chat. I have done a podcast of my own, which is yet to be released. So you never know. I might be coming back to you and asking you to come on mine at some point.
No problem.
But, yeah, for me at the moment, I've got my online coaching business, which is called Coach by Harry. So that you can find coachbyharry.com, and then my handle for sort of Instagram is Harry1Gym. So really, that's the way you can do that.
They will be in below anyway, because I'll send them across to me. And we'll put them on the links for the video and on the podcast, so they can all get hold of you then. But yes, mate, I'm really grateful that you've come on. It's been great talking to you. Been great talking about, someone who's not trying to sound, belittling here, but has been in the industry for a small amount of time, but vast knowledge in such a short period of time. I think a lot of PTs or people who becoming PTs should take a note out of Harry's book and go and do some research before even becoming a PT. Go and start looking, go down the bodybuilding route, go into another sport route, I don't know, massage, mental health, all the above, and have a look at these sorts of things before you actually do your course. And then you've got another, bow to your string, as I say, and you've got in some in-depth knowledge. You're not going in there super green. Yes, you went into the gym industry within working in a gym super green.
Yes, 100%.
You had that vast amount of knowledge first. So you weren't that green. You're just green at learning how to get the clientele first. But you've had a very successful businesses prior to that, which were sales-based. But guys, girls, we're going to say thanks. Harry, thanks very much for having you on, mate. It's been awesome. And definitely have you on again. So, folks, look out for Harry at his on his Instagram and online. And you forgot your Facebook page as well, mate. So if they can get hold of you on there as well, is there one for that as well?
Yeah. Well, again, you can look me up personally if you like. That's Phil Harry Worth. So look me up on that personal one, and I'll be in touch.
Okay. Thanks very much, Harry. Guys, girls, thanks again, and we'll speak to you soon.